So why are you so quiet? Why do you not speak up? I hear the saying a lot. A wise man doesn't say many words, and a fool speaks a lot. Something like that. But why are you quiet? If you're watching this video, you're asking that because it's some form of problem for you. And I've been reading this book called Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. He talks about the 4 F's. You probably already know them. The 4 F's are fight, flee, freeze, and fawn. You fight, you flee, you freeze, which is like you just go into yourself, which is kind of what I am. And number 4 is fawn, which is when you just try to be friends with someone. So say someone's bullying you, you try to be friends with them. I can see that in myself too. I can see my freezes first and then my fawn. Your number 1 or your number 2 response to traumatic events is fawn. And so how this manifests is you are not expressing yourself because you think you need to listen all the time. This is how you act like a therapist. This is how you end up in relationships and friendships where you basically become someone's therapist. You're always listening. This is the reason why you get into relationships and friendships where you are basically a therapist. You don't want to be someone's therapist, you want to be someone's friend, and that's entirely different. That means a reciprocal relationship where you have to put in some information, some content into that conversation, and you don't just sit there and be like, yeah, yeah, I disagree, I agree. When you actually start doing this, when you actually speak up, when you start putting in that information, that content, those stories into the conversation, they get to know you better. And that's kind of what you're scared of, right? You're kind of scared that someone will get to know you and you'll be disappointed. And that's what I'm scared of. So I go into myself and I feel like I'm really good at listening. When people talk about, when you're listening, don't be thinking about what you're going to say next. That's not really me. Most of the time, I'm not thinking like that. I don't really relate to that saying. You need to listen more. You need to not be thinking of what you're going to say next. What you really need to do is to do the opposite. To actually feel the reaction to that information. Because that's the thing I'm working on. I'm working on really giving a piece of myself into that relationship. So even at work, I'm always asking questions. I ask too many questions. Like a section of the population is not going to like how many questions I'm asking. And that conversation will go nowhere because in that situation, one trick show. I only have one trick, and that's asking questions and trying to get to know you. Why don't I allow people to get to know me a little bit more? That's what I need to work on. So, how can we work on this? Just think, what questions are you asking people? What are you interested about them? They're probably going to be interested in what you have to say if, they asked you that question. So if you say, how's school? Pretty basic question. Whether or not they say, how's school for you? You just go on and say, today I had this class where, the professor was crazy. Put some information into this conversation because otherwise the conversation would either stagnate by you not doing anything or will become somewhat dry by you continually asking questions. Of course, people like talking about themselves, but that's what you've been doing for a long time. What you need to do instead is to actually answer the questions yourself. And that's the solution to your quietness. You might be the one starting conversations, but you need to have the boldness to actually go out there and reciprocate the conversation because that's what you're scared to do. You're not scared of asking questions. Instead, think about, what do I want to talk about? I do want to know this about them, but what do I want them to know about me? And so if you ask the questions, this is the next step. If you ask the questions that you want them to know about you, that's even more availability, even more power for you to go right into your favorite topic, right into emotional vulnerability, right into letting them get to know you. Because not only are you letting them get to know you, but you're also talking about what you want to talk about. Like, if you literally ask them, do you like dinosaurs? Or, like, what's your favorite dinosaur? That's a better question. What's your favorite dinosaur? And think about it, and they say, oh, the T-Rex. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. My favorite is the Brontosaurus because of its gigantic neck. And they're like, yeah, that one's pretty good. I wonder how they ate so much. You can just go on and talk about dinosaurs all day long because you started the conversation about dinosaurs. You asked the question. And them getting to know you necessitates a response from you.